Yeah, I should take a different route. Reverse my little route. There's something that I can't put aside. That after a pint in after work, had a poke bowl, delicious poke bowl. There we go. That's what I had. Delicious poke bowl and tuna salmon. Anyway, and so it was. Then had a pint, and so looking at YouTube and seeing stuff about the left and the right and things going on, and so I just want to make sure now that everybody's seeing it takes that I want everyone to get this idea. I like putting it into terms like this because there's those people who obviously, in some way, shape, or form, there's something about Europe and being all mealy-mouthed, or that they associate it with being mealy-mouthed or being like half-witted or naive or something that well, the French would say it this way, you know. In Belgium, they like to say, you know, and so, with Americans, going to be like, yeah, and then the president, he had to make an executive order. See, because there was so many motherfucking nut jobs and wackos, and he said, okay, all the nut jobs, all the wackos, clearly have to be institutionalized. Because there's nut jobs and wackos everywhere. Sir, what about the schizos and the freaks? Depends upon the definition of freak. Yes, sir. Actually, we have a lot of... we're working on the freak category right now. The schizos. That's safe territory. I shouldn't laugh, but okay. I made a little video earlier that Oregon has this considerable issue, and California does too in its own ways. Well, look what the fuck you produced. And so it's like, well, Oregon, how is it that you needed to lower the standards of reading and math on behalf of ethnic minorities that really don't exist? To help people who are marginalized communities. What does that even mean? And it's because there's so much drug addiction. And that requires women going along with it. And they sell their children to drug dealers. And nobody wants to talk about it because that's the worst. That's the worst. It's the worst thing. Somebody once pulled me aside and said, I can't deal with what just was said to me by this person who we both knew. She goes, I can't deal with this without knowing somebody else knows that she was sold by her parents for drugs. That's Oregon. That's normal exurban and suburban life, apparently. Once a guy who lived here, who was pretty well known, well-liked, well-known. After a couple of beers, people say something, and one of the things he had said about growing up here is he goes, oh yeah, we used to staff the Bunny Ranch quite well in the 90s. I was like, wow. Took a sip of my beer. Wow. That was frank. It was, yeah, didn't know, still to this day, you know. So, when a lot of people come at this whole, like, you can't do that, the morality issues, things like that. No. Who didn't know you couldn't recycle stuff like the boxes that soy milk came in? Who didn't know that? No, and in the enclaves, they don't know that. They pretend not to until suddenly Manila is like, you can't dump this shit in our bay. And then suddenly, oh, you can't recycle that. You gotta, that scams like that would go for years. Oh, we're all eating this kind of rare herb so that we can all be thin like the Japanese and the French. I still love that idea of French cuisine in America. And it's like, yeah, well, it's because they thought the French were pretty and thin. Not kidding. I'm not joking. There was whole cookbooks. The whole idea, you could put a country and then diet and then cookbook in, and you'll find these things from the 90s. Maybe they would be in ISBN searches and stuff like that. Was it the Mediterranean diet? That was one for a while. They come and go. Sushi, that was a big reason why sushi popped up. It was an amenity for women. And that's fine, delicacies. And it's just, it's the imperial quality of the delicacies. But what was really hanging on my mind, wow, getting into, brought up a lot of darkness. Hello, darkness, my old friend. The left, everything indicates the left wants to see you in particularly sexually assaulted if you are a pretty young white woman. There seems to be some fixation on this. They want you in particular in fear of that at all times. That your society has some reason for you to think this. Because I want to make very clear, I live in a place in Oregon that all of the hubbub, all of the stuff has come, and then comes summertime, I'm wearing flip-flops, underpants, and a tank top to go into the store and go shopping. And really, I'm like, where you could tell if a woman gained 2 pounds. If you just keep an eye out, you can see, you put on a couple pounds. Oh, you lost a little bit of weight there. Oh, you've been tanning. And I have no problem with it. This is the thing, it's that kind of thing. I've always been a bit of a vain fellow, really. And so it's like, I totally appreciate, no, honey, I get it. Be beautiful, be fabulous. Why live life to its fullest? It's just, if you only, make sure it's appreciated. Make sure you have somebody who, like, appreciates it such that it's like anybody, Democrats try to get you assaulted by wackos, it's that they're going to try to instruct you on how to vote so you understand, like, no, the only reason why you would support this is if in the long run you kind of want to be assaulted by wackos, oh, dang, I didn't think of it that way, Because now that's really becoming, I mean, it's too, one of those things of, if it's not a flaw, it must be obviously a feature. So the fact that these policies end up, oh, well, if you do these policies, you will be unsafe at night in the streets, consistently, everywhere. So you should totally reject such policies and parties that posit such policies. Because it's not a flaw. It's not a bug. It's a feature. Labourite UK is exemplary of this is not a flaw. It's a feature. Blue enclaves across the western coasts of the United States, contiguous 48 states, including actually, unfortunately, Hawaii as well. It's not a bug. It's a feature. You simply, and now like Portland is showing, like it's absolutely not a bug. It's a feature, and key, because then you dig down. So if this isn't a bug of the party, it's a feature of the party. And then what do we dig into? Well, it turns out this is a party of mostly that without female sport, there would be almost nobody sporting it. Well, that's kind of that's wild. That's weird as hell. That's pretty unexpected. That's one of those. Well, that's darn near totally unexpected. Who would have thunk it? Don Knotts popping up. Well, who would have thunk it? And so you end up with this issue. Almost all parties, left of center, have this, then the pattern holds of this weird pattern. Why does the left seem to love Islam? And then it's like, well, they got these weird things about declaratives on don't do this, this is good, this is bad, rather declaratives. But then you go through and you're like, there's not actually a great number of them. Say, like, enumerated in a list of 10 as a pattern that shows up over and over again, hundreds to thousands of years separated from one another. This strange pattern of 10 rather declarative statements on moral behavior in a way that's transcendental, cosmic, but is put in a form of language that applies to, that the normal people could understand at the time, which would actually be totally brilliant in any culture. And to make it simply 10, because you could count them on your hands, which, I mean, it seems like there's a long tradition to that, but why go into that? Why care about that? Anyway, so, but with the left, you got now left of center parties are having this issue of, no, you got a few declaratives, but it's not really a coherent list of ideas that one moves into the next one. And so therefore you kind of have a sort of check on your own morality, because if it should apply in some way in this pattern of there being laid out 10 of them in sequential order. That the left now has this problem of, well, don't defend women. 2, remember that anyone who says they're a woman is a woman. 3, don't defend marginalized people. and something somewhere from there develops the rest of the emanations, the energies, the virtues that are bestowed upon the left. And those of us who tend to be under their rule, for now, Well, now the beauty of this is people are seeing, well, okay, well, I would love to follow any of these rules, but you guys aren't really making clear what they are, and because now there's no leadership in the party, it's this thing of, well, so who's setting the rules? I mean, like, we're just kind of all ambling about like Obsidian, or was it right? That's a just saying random shit when we're toggled, and then apparently aggressing not just feds, but I want to. It was so good. I don't know what brotherhood or fraternity this is. I don't know what sodality this was. It obviously looked like it was a group from an order, like a holy order, like a young men's holy order, and it was wonderful. They so nailed it that they started singing songs in mockery of people messing with them. And then as people actually started to physically mess with them, they started to yell, aggressor, aggressor, aggressor. Like, it was one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen done. The whole way it was done, it was with the suits and the singing, and then suddenly everybody pointing and saying it. That was content. That was pure, unadulterated content. Now, there's now this thing of you can't use MasterCard or you can't use Visa for this kind of content because this kind of content, this is who knows what people will do with a video game with boobies, and so the beauty now is it's just this whole realm of like this is content like kind of thing going on, that there's now a whole realm the left just has left aside of just be even remotely entertaining, that even Seinfeld has had to say, like, you guys aren't funny, like that was the beauty of the left. Like, that was the whole thing about the stand-up comedian, getting along with the stand-up comedian. That whole part of that is that you got it. It's like even Apollo as well. Like, I just think about that now. Like, I remember seeing Bernie Mac start at the Apollo. I remember it so clearly, and it was so funny how what he did was, because so many people failed on that stage, he looked at the audience and he told the audience, "I'm not afraid of you." It was so hilarious. He nailed it. and it was legendary. And he became a legend. And that was Bernie Mac's start. And you can't be afraid of the audience in that way. You have to believe that you and the audience are a part of something. MAGA and America First has nailed it because we didn't stop. We just didn't. We were like, we know we're onto something here. We know this information, we're on to the accurate information. There's then more and more people would come along and say, not only are you on to the accurate information, but little do you know. And they would add in more. And some of this even started to make me understand the idea of, you can name any group of people, and at this stage in history, you then add big, or little. And it's because there has been set up under liberalism a system by which there's a state apparatus to elevate the big, and you name any group, big blacks, big Mexicans, the big Jews, the big whites, and then they rule over through politics, through especially unions, and then you add the little to whatever group, and that's the way it's really rolling now. Instead of the idea of individual people in the places they live, or their families, the groups they want to associate with, that they think that they are a part of, being able to compete. And a lot of people on the left, they can't believe that that's real. They can't. They can't believe in the Hoosier. They can't believe in him. Because the Hoosier to them is trash. They've said it over and over. Where I, as this mixed race, postmodern, raised Democrat in San Francisco, it's like, oh no, no. If you give opportunity to those Southern whites, that those Southern white folks, they'll build an empire. What it was that the folks who ran everything down there run them into the ground, and everybody's always. I mean, who doesn't know that? Even as somebody who had been raised Democrat, who doesn't know that's how it's running there? That's the story of. We literally base whole TV series off of these characters who, if you look at it, you're like, no, what this is kind of like a Southern Democrat who's like, okay, just a land poacher. He's stealing from all these people, or just common people who probably vote Republican, but if you don't know that, you don't know. And if you didn't know that about Chicago, if you didn't know that about various places, you didn't know. And so you thought that with the Clintons, the Democratic Party had reformed itself. But no, something else happened. It became worse. And now a lot of people on the left have to understand this. We know you want to see us ritually, sexually assaulted by your army of wacko, mutant fucking orcs, whatever group it is, that like something about them, you love knowing that they get to commit crime. Whatever it is, your friends, your fucking methed up friends, your drugged up friends, your friends who don't know what their genitals are for, their fucking Islam friends, whatever group it is, that this is some weird mascot that you want to see as this like Caraboss, this fucking this mighty raping mutant beast that will finally humble these men who dared be taller and better looking than you. That's more and more of us are getting that's kind of what's going on. I got a sense of this a long time ago. There's just various things that kept coming up over and over and over again as tropes on the left that I was like, okay, this is a little odd that this trope keeps coming up. Because, most people don't really like being in high school sports. Seriously, like most people don't. They this is kind of a thing you end up doing, and at some point you end up doing something else. That we've made it something that you have to do so you could get into college. Because you see, you have to be double amazing. It doesn't matter if you can't speak in full sentences. Doesn't matter if you could spell. Doesn't matter if your logic's grammar and your rhetoric's logic. But you could fucking you could do sports, bro. You're a sport bro. And I mean this for everybody, especially you're a soccer. I'm a soccer girl. And then when I'm not doing soccer, I'm doing what's the one with the stick? Lacrosse, that kind of thing. And it's made you a lawyer, and you're without that was your qualifier, and you became a lawyer, and that's awesome. It is what it is. Hopefully the career's going well. Now, with this idea of cracking down on the nutters, homeless nutters, you do this, you do that. Oh, it turns out they're bonked. They're going to have to go to some kind of facility, some kind of thing like that. First person who's semi-normal shows that they're bonked, ends up in a facility. It's going to be a big story. Gotta endure. You gotta endure. This isn't even omelet eggs, right? Omelet and eggs. It's like, no. No. It's because we know by psychological surveys that we're dealing with a period of time where a lot of people are bonked as fuck. And that we've got to do something about this issue. You can't have so many bonked out motherfuckers all over the place. The West Coast and COVID really showed this, that the West Coast, nobody wanted to admit that there are homeless everywhere. I'd bring this up during talks with people about like the blah blah blah, and I'm like, no, I mean, once they start, and I remember I said at one point to somebody, I said, oh well, no, once they start mass inoculating all the fucking homeless people, then it's all good. And you could see the horror on his face. And I'm just like, well, but they would be the biggest disease vector. I mean, in any case, in any disease, in any infection. And I could tell, like, a whole thing happened. I knew it. It's like, you don't even know the words I'm using. You don't understand even the terms I'm using now. And so I was like, there's not, that's it. And so a lot of people, we've been waiting. And with this EO, that's one of those EOs that I'm like, whoo, let's go. And so, all right, I'll talk to you all later.